Bonjour, je suis Mathieu Carbas, journaliste à l'actualité. Bienvenue au sommet Movin'On, le sommet de la mobilité durable. Je suis aujourd'hui avec Christopher Schafer, qui est en charge du développement stratégique at Lime Canada. So Lime is bonjour.
Bonjour.
La-
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Lime is a transportation company that runs bike, scooters, and car sharing system in many cities in the world. So my first question will be very easy. Is the sharing the future of transportation?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. It's definitely sharing. It's going to be and is electric. And another aspect that's important is the integration of these things from mass. So you take all of those things, and that's really what makes us exciting in this space, is that it's shared, it's electric, so it's environmentally sustainable,
Okay.
and often increasingly it's becoming integrated as well with other forms of transportation. So
What you mean by integrated?
it's the ability to really have a centralized app, as an example, where you can see all the transportation options and really fit that into your life about going from A to B in your city or town. And sometimes that makes sense to take the public transportation, but sometimes you need a way to get to public transport, since there's often issues with transportation equity. We can't, unfortunately, build a subway to everyone's front doorstep. That'd be really good. I'd love it in Toronto if I had that option.
Yeah.
Of course, it's very expensive to build, so I need a way to get to the nearest subway stop. And sometimes the best way is to walk. Sometimes it's to cycle, sometimes it's to take a ride share or car share, but often, and increasingly in cities around the world in which Lime operates, it's to take an electric scooter.
Okay. So electric scooter will be available soon in Montreal. Do you know exactly when and how it's going to work?
No, unfortunately, I don't have the exact date. As you may know, the City of Montreal passed a bylaw, and this is to regulate electric scooter share in the City of Montreal. Right now, we're waiting on the province actually to issue a ministerial order that would allow the City of Montreal to issue permit to companies like Lime to operate an electric scooter share in the City of
Do
Montreal.
you think that can be available before the end of the summer, for example?
Yes, that's the anticipation, is that it's going to be soon.
Okay, great. Cool. There are like a lot of concern in many cities in the world about electric scooters, about safety. How do you feel about that? Do you understand those concerns and what Lime does
Sure.
for that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Safety is paramount. It's very important to the business. You need to have a safe product that consumers use and trust, and government needs to know that and feel that as well. So it's crucial to everything we do. So the scooter itself, we're a tech company, so we iterate in that space. It's not just good enough to take a product off the shelf and put it out there without learning from experience, adapting, testing. So we do a lot of rigorous internal manufacture and testing. So you'll notice the floorboards upon which you stand to ride the electric scooter have gotten wider. The device is heavier. It's safer. The wheels have gotten bigger.
Okay.
All of this designed so that with comfort in mind for the consumer or rider, but also for safety. And of course, there are laws in places with respect to helmet use. Even if it's not the law in a particular jurisdiction you're riding a Lime electric scooter, we always encourage our riders to wear a helmet whenever riding a Lime electric
All
scooter.
right. Okay. But I just read the news this morning, and I saw that the city of Paris just decided to prohibit the parking electronic scooters on the sidewalk, and also to control the speed of the scooters. Are you afraid of such decisions for Lime, or do you think that's? You understand those fears, and you want to work with the municipality maybe to help that out?
Yeah, absolutely. In my role, I spent a lot of time in Canada, and not in Paris, unfortunately, beautiful city. But I spend a lot of time in our beautiful cities of Vancouver and Montreal and Toronto and other cities in Canada. And I spend that time with provincial elected officials, but also officials in public officials,
Okay.
and at the municipal level in Canada. So they have very legitimate questions, concerns about pedestrians and their safety and security, about infrastructure, about parking, and we're talking here about free-floating electric scooters or dockless. So
Okay.
we started about, I guess Paris was actually the leader in this bike share space, the docked bike share space, going back now, it's got to be over 10 years ago now with the introduction of those docked bike shares. As technology, races forward and progresses, we've moved into a free-floating or dockless world, which has a whole bunch of inherent advantages, such as knowing that when you get to your destination, you don't have to find a docking station that may or may not be there. Will it be full? Will I have to go 6 blocks out of my way to find another docking station? Dockless removes all of that friction. It does introduce some other challenges about, as you've mentioned, where to park.
Yeah, that's a good question. If I have a scooter, where can I park it? Or
it's a good question. So, Lime, we work with cities and governments to implement things. So, for example, and you may not know this, at the end of each electric scooter trip, a rider has to take a picture of their parking. Now, before they get to that stage, there's the in-app education about how to safely and responsibly park a Lime electric scooter. So we're talking here in what's called the street furniture zones of sidewalks. This is where already in sidewalks you have, not all sidewalks, but a growing number of them, particularly in cities, where you have existing newspaper boxes, existing park benches or planters.
Lights.
And it's not. It doesn't block pedestrians.
It's not walkable.
It's not walkable.
Okay.
It doesn't block a wheelchair ramp or a front door to a business. That's the sweet spot of where parking is really ideal. And so we encourage people to use that space, and they have to take a picture at the end of the trip. And that allows us as a company some ability to analyze how successful our riders were in meeting the standards we put in place to help facilitate safe and responsible parking. There's a bunch of other things that we do in this regard as well, working with our city partners. I'd be happy to explore as well.
And so to make sure that everyone understands, the scooters are to drive, to be used on the street and not on the sidewalk, basically.
Yes.
But here in Montreal, our streets aren't that good, with some big holes. And so do you, again, about security, it's not a problem that the roads are not in good shape, and it's.
Yes. So we take into consideration too that Lime operates now in 100+ cities, in 20 countries on 5 continents. So even if you take a look at northern parts of the United States of America, it's colder climates, similar to what we experience here. There's parts of Western Europe that have climates not terribly dissimilar to what we experience in Canada. Paris has a lot of, last time I was there, I assume it's still the case, has a lot of cobblestone.
Okay.
And that's different, a little bit similar to what we have here in Old Montreal.
Okay.
But maybe more of it in Western European cities than we would have in North America. Exactly. So the scooters are doing well there as well.
Okay.
So again, it's about looking at the product itself, and the wheelbase has gotten bigger over time, making adjustments to the product so that we can offer the safest possible ride to our consumers.
Okay, and so can we imagine the same, but for any kind of roads, or even in the woods? I don't know. It's something that can be possible at some point? Yeah,
in theory. We really view the Lime electric scooter, if you sort of go back, 10, 15 years ago to the introduction of the Segway, and for a whole bunch of reasons, it's been more or less relegated to a tourist attraction in certain parts of the city. We don't view our electric scooter in the same way. We view it as a mode of transportation that you would use every day to get A to B, just for those trips that are a little bit too far to walk, that you'd consider taking a personal automobile, a ride share, a car share, and all of those things, those 3 things, ride share, car share, your personal automobile, contribute to traffic congestion, and we want to mode shift, as cities do. They want to mode shift people out of cars into bike lanes, or mobility lanes as I call them, with forms of transportation that are electric, so environmentally sustainable, and shared.
Okay. Yeah, You talked earlier, and we heard a lot about it, about the last kilometer or the first kilometers.
Sure.
So the one from my house to the metro, and then the metro to my office, for example. Uh, so we talk a lot about this kilometer, but have people just forgotten how to walk? Just for me, it's like, oh, if it's 1 kilometer, you can walk it. Why try to find another solution?
It's a good question. You know, one thing that in asking that question, one thing I find people often forget or don't put into the thinking around that question is nobody then takes that same logic, or it's rare, take that same logic and apply it to the automobile. The automobile, most trips, the data shows for trips in cars are short trips. And no one thinks about the number of trips that would otherwise be done by pedestrians that are in cars. No one thinks about that. And car traffic and car trips make up the disproportionate number of trips on roads today. So will there be some scooter trips that otherwise would have been done by walking? Yes. But the point is there's a fundamental shift happening here. And the shift is about getting, especially in our dense urban cores, the need to get more people, more of the time, out of their own car and into bike lanes using maybe a bicycle, walking, using an electric scooter, or maybe it's an e-skateboard or rollerblades or whatever it might be.
Car sharing.
Or car sharing.
Because it's still one better than
Carpooling
five.
is
Carpooling,
again better
yeah.
too. And there's lots of interesting work going on there by a whole bunch of companies to get more people to share. If you're going to drive, share a ride because that's better in the end because it does reduce traffic congestion. So all of those things are important, but we got to remember too that the majority of car trips are short trips too. And we need to encourage more people to get out of that car onto forms of transportation that don't add to traffic congestion or greenhouse gas emissions.
Is that hard to change the mind of people about the transportation, saying that instead of using only your car, the metro or what, that you can use both, or maybe like a scooter, then the metro, then car sharing, etc. It's
you know,
I mean, do you feel the change?
well,
or-
it is the data. Data tells us there's a change. If you look at people are doing this. There's a number of trips I know in the, for example, let's if we shift away to the electric scooter and talk a bit about the rideshare space. There's a number of trips that show people doing one-way trips. So we know that they're taking a trip maybe from their home to the office, but then they're not taking a rideshare back.
No.
But then they need to go home, presumably.
Still.
They still need to go home at some point.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, how are they getting home? And perhaps it's an electric scooter. Perhaps it's public transit. Perhaps they walked. But there's a lot of one-way trips going on.
So the choice, it's important. Giving the choice.
Absolutely. If we want people to fundamentally make that shift, it's not good enough for a city to say, we should be greener, we should take cars less often, we have issues and problems with traffic congestion, we've got to do something about that, without giving people, residents, voters, citizens in that city options. So we have found, we did data, I mentioned this in my talk today, 2018 data of Lime riders, we surveyed them.
Okay.
And 30% globally indicated to us that on their last trip, if it wasn't for the Lime product being available to them, they would have taken their personal car or a ride share or a car share. 30% of people indicated us. So the point I'm making is if you give people the choice, they will make it, but they need to have that choice, and it's got to be convenient to them. So it's not good enough. The historical problems we had with docked bike share systems, the ones that are not free floating, is that there may not be a docking station near to you.
Okay.
And that creates friction. It's got to be convenient, affordable, and then people will start to make those decisions that are better for everyone.
Just one last question already.
Sure.
So in the future, I mean, starting today, electric scooters, cars, bikes, pedestrian, etc. Everyone coexists in the street. How can it be possible? I mean, how to make it possible, this cohabitation?
Yeah. Well, we're seeing it organically already. If I was in San Francisco not too long ago, and what really excited me that I'm seeing there, and again, not without challenges, of course, that we have to work through with government and other stakeholders in civil society, accessibility groups as a key stakeholder as well. But I saw in their bike lanes, and I was riding the docked bike there, and I saw people with an e-bike share riding that. I saw people on an electric scooter. I saw people riding an electric skateboard. I saw people riding the traditional Segway
On the same
in the
space?
same bike lane.
Okay.
And to me, there was cohabitation. Everyone was traveling. And the more we see of that, I think it creates that induced demand for cities. The politicians will see, well, there's more people riding these things, and the more people riding them, other people think, oh, I can do that now.
I can
It's
do
safe.
my way,
I
so
can-
use the one I want.
Exactly, and that then creates demand for improving that infrastructure or expanding it, or in fact building new infrastructure. Ideally, that's separated from automobile traffic. That's the best for everyone.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, merci.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup de nous avoir suivis. On vous donne rendez-vous dans quelques minutes pour la prochaine interview en direct du sommet sur la mobilité durable Movin'On. Merci.